What's up, guys? It's Brent with Lykins Motorsports. Was thumbing through the videos that are on my subscription list. Eric Weingardner is on my subscription list, and he was going over some new information that he had on the small block Ford Cam Challenge, which I am entered in. Always like looking at the comments, and I was scrolling through here, and I was looking at these guys, and they're posting on what their prediction is as far as what would win, what their 2 cents would be, and just right out of the gate, I am not picking on anyone. I just wanted to use these two guys' comments. I'm not assuming that they are. I'm not assuming that they are not putting any thought into it. So if if one of these guys is a subscriber of my channel, please don't take offense to this. I just wanted to explain a couple of things. So I'm looking at this post right here. So up above, Matthew says that he figures that a 260, 270 at 50 on the intake side and 270, 285 exhaust on a 108, 110 would be the winner. Mr. Nick says, my guess is 266, 276 at 50 on a 108. So I see this done quite often. People guessing lobe separation angles without having a lot of the other information that's necessary for a cam. So I'll just be, pretty blunt here in saying that you can't pull lobe separation angles out without knowing the advertised durations of the lobes that you're using. And I'm going to show you a couple examples why. And I'm going to go to Comp Cam's lobe catalog. So we'll use Mr. Nick's suggestion of 266, 276. I'm going to scroll through here. I'm going to scroll to the very top of the solid roller lobes that Comp offers. So we're looking at right around in here. So 276 right here, 276 right here. Look at the advertised durations on these guys. So 302 and 312. Also look at the 200 thousandths duration. 186, 195. So if you have access to some camshaft, cam timing calculators, let's put some numbers in here and look at these lobes a little bit in finer detail here. So if you look at that 266 lobe, it's a 302 advertised duration. 276 is 312, and if I remember correctly, he said on a 108. So look at the numbers. Put this in the middle here. Look at these numbers that it's spitting out based on these advertised durations, and keep in mind that this is a 266, 276. Here's your valve events, okay? So it's going to open at 43, the intake side, close at 79. The exhaust is going to open at 84 and close at 48. We got 91 degrees of overlap. Now, I'm going to clear all that out. We're going to scroll on down to Comps, let's see here, the Hi-Tech 420 rollers. So again, we got the 266 and the 276 at the bottom. So the lobes that we just looked at were 186, 195. If you look at this one, at the 200 thousandths duration, 183, 190. So we already got a difference there. The advertised durations are the same. Okay, so 302, 312. So our valve events are going to be somewhat the same. If I plug in that 302, 312 on a 108, we're going to get roughly the same amount of overlap, and the opening and closing events are going to be the same. That cam may not act the same as the one that we just looked at, because the 200 thousandths duration is a little bit different. So let's keep on. I'm going to clear that out. Keep on scrolling down. So Comp has their RZ rollers. Here's another 276, 276. But look at the advertised durations: 299, 309. So if I put a 299 and a 309 in here on a 108, look at what it does to the opening and closing events as well as the overlap. So that cam is going to be completely different. The opening and closing events are completely different from the other lobes that we looked at, and we have 88 degrees instead of 91 degrees. So if I scroll on down to the CR rollers, again, we've got a 266 here. We've got a couple of 276s right here. But if we take a look, we'll clear that out. So we'll look at the 266 is a 297. The 276 is a 307. If I were to put that on a 108, look what it does to the valve events. It changes the valve events again, and it pulls 2 degrees of overlap out. So we've looked at we've looked at 4 different lobes. We've looked at anything from and look at the 200 thousandths duration on these as well. So we got 183, and there's, for the 276, there's even a variation there. So 194 and 192. But we've looked at 4 different lobes. We've went from 86 degrees of overlap to 91 degrees of overlap, and 200 thousandths durations all over the place, advertised durations all over the place. This is why you cannot start out from the gate choosing a lobe separation angle. Engines like different valve events. So I was part of the Weingartner LS Cam Challenge, and we had this conference around PRI, and a lot of us talked about, differing ways of choosing cam specs. I don't remember very many guys saying that they use the lobe separation angle as an input. So Bobby from NK Performance, he came right out and said, the LSA is not an input, it is just a variable that you change to get the valve events where they need to be. Chris Straub, same thing. Daniel Powell, same thing. This is also the way that I believe the lobe separation angle is completely just a variable that you change just to get the valve events to where you want them. So if you do a lot of engine combinations, you know what degrees of overlap works. Some engines, so I look at overlap with advertised duration numbers. Some engines do really well with say 60. Some engines do well with 90. So it depends on the size of the engine, what kind of RPM you're pulling, how well the cylinder heads work, how well the exhaust works, the difference between your intake and exhaust flow ratios. All of that goes into these numbers here. So if I were to look at these same lobes And let's look at this 266, 276 again. If I just pulled a lobe separation angle, out of the air that I think the engine would like, what if I say, oh, it needs to be on a 104? That's 94 degrees of overlap versus 86 degrees of overlap. So those two cams would behave differently. So the advertised duration plays into this so much. So when somebody makes a comment that a 276, is going to be the winner, 50,000 striations are not everything. There's a ton of other variables and data that you need to look at, and then you change the lobe separation angle to make the cam work in the envelope that you want. This is let's go over. Let me show you some hydraulic roller lobes. Hydraulic roller lobes are generally really high in advertised durations. So we'll pull out some, just thumbing through the catalog here, pulling out some lobes that we can look at. If I were to say that this is a hot street engine, and again, this is this is what I see a lot of guys doing. This is a hot engine. I think a 106 lobe separation angle is going to be it. I'm putting an intake center line in there just for giggles. It doesn't really make any difference for what we're talking about now. I'm going to look at these two lobes right here. So both of them are 50 thousandths, 230 degrees at 50 thousandths. We're going to make this a single pattern cam, okay? So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at this lobe right here. We're going to go 284, 284. There's 72 degrees of overlap. Now, what happens if I pick this lobe? 292, 292. Instead of 72 degrees of overlap, we got 80. So you can't start by choosing the lobe separation angle without looking at all of the valve events first. That includes advertised durations, durations at 200 thousandths, and then some guys pick a cam by saying, oh, I need the intake valve to open 40 degrees before top dead center, and I need it to close at 72. A lot of cam guys do that. I do it a little bit differently, but I'm still looking at valve events, and I'm looking at overlap, and I'm looking at dynamic compression ratios and cranking pressure and that sort of thing. So the quick video turned into a long video, but I hope that helps. Again, I'm not picking on anybody. Looking at Mr. Nick's post, picking a 108 lobe separation angle and installing it on a 105, it really doesn't mean anything without having all this other data involved. So there again, hope that helps a little bit, and just wanted to put a quick video out there, maybe shining some light on some things. Alright guys, hope you're having a good Saturday afternoon. I will talk to you soon.